Bismillahirrahmanirrahim. Assalamu alaikum. Can Muslims be friends with non-Muslims? To some people, this question might sound weird, but interestingly, to some others, devout Muslims, the answer is a very clear, very firm no. Where does it, where does this concept originate from? It is claimed that it originates from the Quran. There is a verse of the Quran that says, believers, don't make the Jews and the Christians your friends. They are friends of each other. If someone from amongst you is going to make them his friends, he is going to be counted as belonging to them. Obviously, you might ask then, if the statement of the Quran is so very clear, how can you claim that Muslims can have non-Muslims as his friends? Well, the answer is that there are at least three reasons why I believe that this claim is not correct, that Muslims cannot have non-Muslim friends. One reason is that it's a very weird idea. How can you have a faith uh, that can ask its faithfuls not to make anyone uh, their friends except those belonging to the same faith, the same religion? Particularly a faith that claims that it's God's last message, which needs to be shared with the entire humanity. I mean, how can you share God's message with the entire humanity if you cannot make them your friends? So it really is very strange. The other reason why I am inclined to believe that this understanding cannot be correct is that the Quran claims that because it is God's word, it has no contradictions. In fact, it's the most important principle of interpretation of the Quran, that you must not interpret a passage or a verse of the Quran in a way that it would appear contradicting another passage or another verse. Or else you will do what the Quran is saying that is not possible. So if the Quran is telling at least the believing men that they can get married to women belonging to the people of the book, the Jews, the Christians, how can one expect that a marriage can take place, but the husband and wife cannot be friends with each other? Her relatives are not allowed, her husband is not allowed to have friendly relations with her relatives, etc. Uh, and third reason why I feel that this interpretation is not correct is that the verse that has been translated as asking Muslim believers to not make non-Muslims as their friends has actually not been translated correctly uh, by taking into account the entire context of the verse. What I'm trying to say is that the verse says, believers, do not make the Jews al-Yahud and the Christians an-Nasara your friends. Now, in Arabic, al-Yahud, which is roughly in English, the Jews, and An-Nasara, the Christians. So Jews and Christians, the two nouns are preceded by the. Now, in Arabic, alif lam, or in English, the, would mean many things, but in particular, one of the two possible meanings. They can carry two meanings. One is the Jews and the Christians would mean all Jews and all Christians. And the other meaning could be these Jews and these Christians, a particular group of Jews and Christians. You look at this verse in its context, and you would find that in verses 57 and 58 of the same chapter, Surah number 5, the Almighty is telling believers that these non-Muslims, they make fun of your religion. When you invite fellow believers to say prayers, there is a call for prayers, they make fun of it. So don't make them your friends. So obviously, this explanation is making it clear that the Jews and the Christians mentioned in verse 51 were not all Jews and all Christians, but they were the ones who made fun of the Islamic teachings. So the problem is solved. Now, another question that arises is that if it's quite as simple as I'm trying to make it appear, how has this concept become so popular? My understanding is that there are again a few reasons. One is that, sadly, hatred sells better. God knows why. If you tell people that you should be kind to others, you should love others, you should be sympathetic, probably is not quite as easy as, particularly to people who are devout and very staunch in their religion. They would rather be inclined towards hating others than loving and caring for others, being loving and caring towards others. It's very strange, but it's a fact. The other thing that has caused this incorrect understanding to become popular amongst many Muslims is that Muslims resort to atomism when they try to understand the Quran as well as Hadith. Atomism is an approach wherein you just take verses isolated from their context. And the end result is that the apparent meanings that emerge from a particular verse or a part of a verse is what people conclude is the ultimate understanding. So the context is ignored. And a third reason why I believe this understanding has become popular, that Muslims cannot make non-Muslims their friends, is an incorrect understanding of a very important Quranic expression, noun, kafir. Many Muslims think that all non-Muslims are kafirs. And kafir is a person, according to the Quran, who's condemned, who's actually worthy of being hated. So no wonder that many Muslims are hesitant to make non-Muslims their friends. I would want to clarify the correct meanings of kafir in another presentation. But I would just want to say that this understanding is absolutely wrong. It has got nothing to do with a proper understanding of the Quran. I will just give in the end, translation of one Quranic verse, which clarifies beyond doubt that um, there is no problem in making non-Muslims friends if they are not against Muslims and their faith. It's mentioned in Surah number 58. It's Surah Mumtahina, where the Almighty says, pardon me, it's Surah number 60, and verse number is 9. It says, God forbids you, O believers, from those people only who fight you because of religion and expel you from your homes and help others in expelling you. God forbids you from making them your friends. That makes it, again, absolutely clear that there is no expectation from the Almighty that Muslims cannot make non-Muslims their friends, except those non-Muslims, and allow me to say, those so-called Muslims who are against Muslims and their faith. May the Almighty enable us to understand our religion and its teachings properly, and may He enable us to follow them to the best of our abilities.